didn't have any other concerns or things. This was the one item that was discussed, and we were able to work that part out. The other item would be the actual progress. The inspections, all of the structural is completed, has been completed. The plumbing and all the rough and electrical has been completed. One of the things that came up with environmental health after the fact is that there became a question of temperature back in the kitchen. One of the inspectors asked about, well, you know, how hot does it get back in the kitchen? It does get hot. The concern was is that we have a swamp cooler with makeup air. That's what's been servicing us thus far, plus fans that we have back in the kitchen area. They came back with a requirement that we get more cooling involved in the kitchen and storage area. So we had to go back to a redesign on actual either a swamp cooler that would kick more air into the kitchen area. In talking to several HVAC people, they said it would be just as more efficient and cost effective to go with just an HVAC system in there to kick in cold air. We would not probably use the heating side at all, just because it's already warm in the kitchen area. So we are, the unit has been installed. We're finalizing the ductwork first of the week, and so the rough part is in. So we're now down into a mad dash of the finishes. The restrooms are basically, the partition walls are going up as we speak. We've been out there. They should be all ready to go by this weekend. Also a couple other items that came up was that they wanted windows that are self-closing like you would see in a drive-through. And so we installed 2 of those windows now. So we're into the final patching and painting phases of that. And so I expect that by probably next week we will be ready to call the final inspections there. Bear in mind that, you know, 2 or 3 days of once you call it, they will come out. And so we expect that probably that following week that we'll have the finals in. That's on the building side. The question came up, well, how does the inspection proceed from there? Once we get the building side squared away, then we will call environmental health in. Once environmental health is done, then the fire marshal is called in. So the fire marshal is the last actual phase of occupancy. The one thing that I did bring up is that due to the amount of work and the cost of the engineering side and some of the things that have kicked in, I basically put on hold the outside structure, the shade cloth structure. So that part has not really been addressed because we've been so focused and started in on the building side that I felt that was the priority. And once we started into that, I wanted to make sure as we got to this time of year, there are many expenses that I have to kick in as far as deposits and insurance and things like that that happen in the month of January. So I was very, very concerned about cash flow. So I backed off on that part of it there. One of the discussions came up then was, well, how is the county going to deal with that? I've had discussions with them to say, will they finalize and parcel out the occupancy of the building? And they said they can consider that, and a permit would still be open, but they could give an occupancy on the building. Something that came up, and one of the things that I said to the committee is that the structure, if that becomes an issue, I could just take it down. It won't exist. I've had the shade cloth up there between the fencing without the structure. I put the structure in to kind of stabilize things. So if the concern is the actual support that's there now, I'll just take it down and it won't exist for now. That was brought up as a possible option if that becomes a concern. The other thing that I kind of brainstormed after the meeting last night was that based upon any, one of the other things we talked about was the entry area, and we didn't address that yesterday, but we kind of tabled that part because of funding, et cetera, as far as what we would do in the entry area. So something I thought about last night and today is perhaps going and carving off the shade structure out of this permit and finalizing this permit, and then including the shade structure as part of possibly the front area, because I would have to then redesign and do all of that up there. So that's something that I kind of thought about. I haven't really moved on that, but that could be a possible option, to just close out this phase without the shade structure and just finish the building, and then that would come in under part of the next phase of the entry. The one thing that we don't know about, and it was brought up at the last meeting, and I don't know what direction this is going and of the funds, is if there's plans to relocate the entry of the park to the parent side, then that kind of dictates what happens to that area there. So there's a couple of things up in the air, a couple of options that we can do, but we're very, very close right now to finishing the building portion. And I believe I've got everything else that, you know, every time I go in there and talk about this item or that item, they kind of review it and have thrown me curveballs. So I think we're about at the end of all of that right now. And we're at the paint and final stage, epoxy on the floor. We're at the finishes. All of the basic rough items have all been done. So we have not had the final. I was hoping to have it done by now, but over the holidays it was just hard to get some of the stuff moving, and then I was thrown a curveball with the HVAC system, which I had to kind of pursue too. So that's basically where we're at right now. Other than that, I understand that that we were hoping to be able to sign a document if we have a final, but we're not there yet. We're very, very close. And so it's just a matter of saying, okay, are we within that time frame? One of the other things that we talked about at the meeting last night is saying, okay, if we move forward with the shade structure portion, when would that be done? And right now, I would say that it would probably, I would need to gather and run a good part of the season as the spring, summer season to actually get into that. We actually don't need the shade structure shade right now in the winter, but the shade cloth serves as protection. And again, if the issue is the structure itself, we can take it down. I would imagine at this point, I've given it some thought, but I don't have a hard line date of when that could be done pending funds, and what may come if we carve that off and include that as part of the front side entry, when that combination would move forward. So I'm hoping that that, you know, maybe by, I would say, the fall, September, go through the summer. It would be earlier than that if I can get it done, but the building part would be done, and the shade structure would depend upon funds available to put that all together. And if it becomes an issue, I can take the structure down.
Dennis, I thought, two things that you said that don't click with my memory of yesterday's meeting is that you were going to come to the board today and tell us that everything as far as the building, all of the permits, everything would be done and be presented to the board in February, at the February board meeting. So the whole structure, all of this renovations and the permitting by the county will be done by the February board.
The building portion.
The building
portion, yes. That will be done.
And then the second part is, I thought what we discussed was that the board might allow dispensation with the shade structure as long as you presented a definite time date for it to be completed, be it August or September or October.
I would say that September would be a deadline, and my hope is to have it done long before that, pending funding to do it.
I would feel more comfortable if you said, okay, it'll be done, finished, everything will be done by September. If you get it done before, more the better.
I just don't want to cut myself short on that end of that, but I would say yes, we get through to a point of where I get into my busy season where, you know, we can generate the funds to do that. Some of these things of running a business and doing the things that have popped up have been very, very big hits. The engineering and the HVAC system is about $8,000, which I did not. So that thing became a priority to take, and that's where a lot of these funds now came in to take away from that. But my goal and my, at this point, I can assure that the building portion minus the shade structure will be done before the February meeting. My plan is to call for finals next week. I'm that close. Just didn't make it to this week. And as far as the shade structure is concerned, again, I'm going to explore maybe the fact with the county next week about, is it feasible to cut that out? Do they actually want to close out this permit, open up a second one with the front? And if that's a combination of that part with the front entry work, because I know that the committee's going to want to address that. They don't want me to sit on that either. So that's the plan, is to gather funds during the course of this year to finish the shade structure. We can prioritize shade structure first, then front area second, as we develop funds through the first part of this year. So that's my plan right now. I would say yes, September 1 would be a drop dead date for the shade structure. We have not really discussed the front entry area in any detail. To put a timeline on that, I said that we would address that after the first of the year as far as what we would be doing in that area and develop a budget for that part there.
Well, I think that's a moot point now because we received information from the county that the state has rejected our eligibility for that loan.
Okay, but that solves that particular issue. So if that's the case, then if we're going to stay in that front area, then I can still go through on the thinking that we're not going to move the entry any time in the near future. And if that's the case, then that takes that part off of the out of the equation for right now. So we will go ahead. I will now go ahead and proceed with that thinking that we will I will come up with a firm plan for the front entry area on that there. We have the engineering for the shade structure. That's part of the permit right now. It's just a matter of coming up with the funds to actually do that work.
I mean, if you don't want to answer this, that's fine. So what is going to be the cost of this shade structure, approximately?
The situation that's happened